So it's been just over a year since I finished renovating my house, and one of the things that people are most interested in is the ecosystems. Now, when I finished the house, it was hard to really communicate exactly how well they're working, but now, a bit over a year later, I've quite a good understanding of what worked, what didn't work, and I've got a system which actually didn't work very well at all. So I'd like to talk about that, and we're also going to go through installing the upgrade. On the roof, I have 6.5 kilowatts of solar going into my inverter, and to save electricity or save money, I have this thing called a solar iBoost. Now, this is primarily used to heat hot water. When I bought it, we were in pandemic and it was quite hard to get anything shipped here. So when I had a shipment and the company only sold this device, I went for it understanding that it would probably be okay. But it can only really do hot water. And it doesn't really, it's not suitable to go to underfloor heating or anything which is an immersion tank. And not only that, it shouldn't be installed more than 3 meters away from it. So I installed it a little bit dodgily. I just thought, well, we'll give it a stab, see what works. And there's a few things about the characteristics which just make it unsuitable. So what I've done is I've got a new system called Immersun, and that is made specifically for using that excess solar and putting in underfloor heating or storage heaters or other appliances, which should be a lot better and won't have the same problems that the iBoost has, which has essentially damaged itself. So now, although it works, it just doesn't function properly at all. So the reason why this sort of system is useful is because if you're not using that energy straight away or maybe store it into batteries, then you're sending that money into the grid. Now, these days, you get hardly any money for the energy you send to the grid. So it's kind of better, if you can, to use it inside your house. So if you use it to heat all your hot water and you're not using it on demand as an immersion heater as normally, only when you have a solar excess, or if you're throwing it into underfloor heating or any other place you can dump the energy, it's basically better for you than send it to the grid. So that's like the key reason, especially with the increasing cost of electricity and energy at the moment. These things are really, really ideal for your house. So what we're gonna do today, we're gonna take this out, we're gonna install the Immersun and just see how that goes. So the unit I'm replacing the iBoost with is the Immersun. Now the Immersun is basically like a slightly more upmarket version. It's got a lot more flexibility, and for people who want to save energy across different appliances, not just their hot water tank, it's just a lot better. Nice eco packaging. So what we got? This is the unit itself. It's always nice when you get packaging which isn't just tons of like plastic for no reason. These are our installation gubbins. So the way most of these devices work, same for the Immersun, is you have a sensor which you put around your cable which goes to the grid. So now it can tell when you're sending electricity the wrong way outside your house, and then it will instead use that electricity into your appliances. So that means you're not always drawing from the grid to do your hot water tank or your other underfloor heating, only when you have an excess and you start to send it out. So we'll turn off the iBoost. The iBoost has this wireless sensor, so I just need to disconnect this without killing myself. Okay, so that's the solar iBoost out the system. As you can see, it's actually very similar size, but you can feel the build quality of this is substantially better.
Ooh.
Hasn't blown up, that's a good sign. So if you didn't know, over the pandemic I renovated this house. It used to be a bit of a junk show, had to take off the roof, do the plumbing, redo some walls, all the windows. So it was a good opportunity to basically put in the best that I could with the money that I had. If you want to see the whole film, you can click on the link here. But this is a house, so we've got 3 stories, and within it I installed a bunch of different systems which have like an eco benefit or an energy efficiency benefit. I'll go through these systems right now. So the plan with the overall energy system in the house was to have a reasonable amount of solar, and I have 6,500 watts. The idea was that that would basically first be used in the house for any appliances, and then if there was excess, rather than send it to the grid, it would be the primary heater for all our hot water. When the water is hot, the idea in winter, it would go into the underfloor heating to a point, and then it can go into a storage heater, which you can choose more or less when the heat comes out. Now, didn't quite work the way I was hoping for the kit I bought, but I'll go into that later. But overall, as a system, it's worked quite well. We do find that in January and December, when it's the shortest days. Now, unfortunately, our roof is like this, and north is that way, so the sun is coming in winter like this. So basically, we're facing the wrong way in winter for our solar to get a lot of solar power. So ideally, we'd be facing this way and have an array, but unfortunately that's not the case. So in winter, we don't really quite have enough excess to heat the hot water if there's like 3 people having showers and really enjoying being warm in the shower. So we need to set some time boosts to make sure that the water is heated enough. But in general, every other month of the year, it's been working really, really well. So I've also installed this twin split aircon machine, and basically it's a little bit overkill to have it as also a heater because it's also got a heat pump. But for the air conditioning here, it gets pretty hot in summer, July, August. There's a couple of weeks in there which is really uncomfortable. And basically solar, right now it's running, it's about 35, 38 degrees outside. It's running all day for free. And we just leave the doors open in the house. So we run 1 unit, and then it just floats through the house, and the house is just permanently cool for free. Now, the aircon running all day right now, with today's electricity prices, would probably cost minimum 10 euros. So we're kind of, with the solar, we're getting about 300 euros a month of free electricity or free cooling, which is well worth the installation of solar. Another piece of kit which I'm really happy I installed is the heat recovery unit. So what the heat recovery does is basically it takes it out of the house, especially from your damp rooms, bathrooms and kitchen. It takes out the warm, dirty air, and then it puts it in the machine, and then it recovers the heat, and then takes fresh air, puts the heat in the fresh air, and then pumps that into your house, into your bedrooms and the dry rooms. So in summer, you're just changing the air, so you have fresh air. Brilliant. In winter, you're reducing the heat loss or the energy loss of your house because you're capturing the heat which is going out and putting it into the fresh air coming in. So that means you end up with fresh air all the time. You can have really tightly sealed windows and really efficient like sealed house, but you have fresh air as well. So it's kind of important to have ventilation when you do a house, and especially old houses, if you seal them all up, then you don't have a way for the air to change. So if you do that, then you end up with condensation problems and mold, things like that. It's quite a big problem in many parts of the world, including Spain. So this system, the only time I could install it is when I'm doing all the major work, because once you've got the pipes in, you're good. If you don't have the pipes, it can be a real pain to get them in the house. But this system's worked brilliantly for a number of reasons. One, here in summer, you have these like tiny little like midgy fly things. Now, if you want to cool down your house, you have to open your windows, but you don't want to do that in the evening because you'll get those little flies in and they give really itchy bites. So to get around that, then we have the aircon, which is great, but you still want fresh air because the aircon doesn't change, it just recirculates. So basically this means that we can have all the doors and windows shut, so we can have fresh air and we can have the aircon cranking with no tiny little flies. So really, really good piece of kit, and it's great to basically wake up in the morning and the air is fresh. So when I renovated the house here, there were two tiny little doors, and then we made it into one giant window, and upstairs we took a small window and made it enormous. Now remember what I was saying about how our house faces south, so not very good for the roof aspect on the solar. What does work really well are the windows facing south, because as the sun comes really low, the sun pours through the very back of the room and it literally completely heats the house on a sunny day. Now, the past winter, we had 3 months with probably about 6 days of rain and probably about 8 cloudy days on top of that. So through that year, we barely burned any firewood because almost all our heating was done by the sun through the windows. These windows, even though this window cost 4,000 euros, will probably save us money over the next 10 years. Obviously you're thinking, well, big windows, that's terrible for the summer, but in the summer the sun's much higher. So right now we're a bit late in the day, but the sun, as you can see, is just almost into the window. In the morning right now it's a little bit in, but in general in the summer the sun is high, it doesn't come in the windows, so it doesn't heat the house terribly, and in the winter it's pretty damn perfect. So the primary way we like to heat the house is using this wood burning stove. The wood burning stove has a water jacket, which is called a back boiler, and it goes to all of the radiators in the house. The benefit of that means that we light the fire and every room in the house is heated, and we're using firewood, which is here cut from the local forests, which are continuously regrowing, and in the last 70 years have massively increased because all the old terraces have become unused. So on that basis, it's quite environmentally friendly because it's biomass, which is continuously replaced. In the morning, we might just use the aircon, the heat pump, just to take the chill off before the sun comes up and heats the house through the windows. So this is the firewood we get from the local guy. This pile is what's left after winter, and it was 3 deep and about that big. It was just like one trailer load of whatever unit they measure it in, and that cost 140 or 50. So something like 150 euros. And we only used half of it all winter. It was a dry winter, it was a beautiful winter, but really this kind of just shows how little we need to heat the house with the windows, the solar systems, the heat recovery, all of it together has worked really well. So we had a bay tree, and the bay tree was dying, and the neighbour's like, wow, you've got to remove it. So he gave his hand, cut it down, and this is the bay tree now. That's literally enough for next winter, unless it's very snowy and very cold, but it's probably enough. Also, I pulled this out the wall the other day, and in the wall, what do you find? Like another box of ammo hidden away.
No way.
From the Civil War, probably. It's just like so funny, freaking everywhere. They were really ready for the Spanish army. So the first thing I did was insulate all the walls. Now this was a lot of extra work because I had to frame everything out, make it square, put in plasterboard and the insulation. It did mean it was easy to run my electrics and pipes through them, but at the same time, without a doubt, it was a lot more work. but I'm really glad I did it because it just means that the house is very fast to heat up when we want it to be warm, and it's fast to cool down because you don't have so much thermal mass in the walls, hundreds of tons of rock. You don't have to heat that up and cool it down every time. So I'm glad I did it, and it gives the foundation for the other systems that I've deployed in the house. Now, a lot of people ask why I didn't insulate the outside. It's just not really tenable on these old buildings. Some of the walls are wavy, you know, and it's just not something you're likely to do here, and not something I was willing to do. But on the inside, it was relatively easy, time consuming, but easy, and has really worked well. So another thing which worked out to be really pretty good, even though it wasn't properly planned, is I insulated the walls, so that removes a lot of connection to the thermal mass of the walls, which means it's easier to heat up the house. It also means it cools down faster. However, the ceiling is just this huge concrete slab with these oak beams, and I left it fully exposed, didn't remove it, and the result here is that this acts as actually like a thermal store. So in the winter, say when the sun has heated the room, made the room and the house warm, then the warmth is stored in this, which kind of creates some stability to the heat in the house. So it was a bit of an accident, but I think it's worked really well. And if you're doing a renovation, it's worth thinking about how you can kind of have that balance of thermal store, which is internal, so it's not like sucking heat out of your house in the winter to the outside, but then limiting the outside wall thermal capacity problem. Now, I'm obviously not an expert in building thermodynamics, but I do really think that this has worked well. So this is a storage heater. The idea of the storage heater originally is that you heat it up in the cheap time, so let's say the night time where the electric's cheap, and then it lets the heat out over the day when the electric is expensive. Therefore you get good value for money heating. The idea I was using it for is that excess solar goes into this in the daytime and then keeps the house warm overnight. I have never used it. I think if I was doing it again, I probably wouldn't install them. I think it would work if I basically could be bothered to wire it in, but when I know in winter that in general there's only enough heat to basically do the water tank, and then in spring the water tank and the underfloor heating, kind of doesn't really make sense. So I might just remove it. It's quite a good shelf. I don't know. I mean, it's just a hassle to take it out. But I mean, they are really good, but I just don't think in the times of year when it would be used, we have enough excess. Maybe I'll experiment on it next spring, but I just been way too busy. So we're in the electric control section. So I have my controller unit with all the switches in it. We've got the solar inverter, which takes the solar from the roof and then does stuff with it and distributes it around the house. I was using here a solar iBoost. Now we have the Immersun. It's a far more capable piece of kit. It comes at a higher price, but it can do a lot more. Now what happens is I heat my hot water. When the hot water is hot, it does the underfloor heating. Then it's got a heat relay, which you can kind of install so you can have it go to another product. So basically you've got a lot more flexibility, and I'm very, very happy with Immersun, because basically my bill has gone from, admittedly with the damaged iBoost, so it wasn't working in the way it's meant to, but my bill the month before was about 200 euros with these cranking energy costs right now, and this month it was 62, so massive reduction, and it's just functioning brilliantly. And today, even though we've been running the aircon almost all day, it saved 2 euros on heating my hot water, so pretty cool. So the Immersun unit does come with this super cool piece of kit which connects to your Immersun unit and to the internet through an Ethernet cable. And then on your phone then you can see all this data, what's going on, analytics, you can program all sorts of stuff. Super clever, super good. But I've connected now, now we're on Starlink and we've networked 2 houses together to share the price because it's quite expensive. And I didn't have an Ethernet port, so I haven't managed to make it work. maybe I'll find a solution, but right now I've just been too busy to fiddle around and try and make it work. But here, I'll add a few shots of that app and then you can see how it works. So what would I do in the future and what would I change? Right now, not a lot, but what I probably will do is add some batteries. My inverter, my solar inverter can take batteries, it supports them. So I think I might add a bunch of batteries to the system to basically mean that like we're harvesting more solar and we're able to use it overnight and kind of just be more efficient. In terms of like overall efficiency, we're not burning very much wood, which is cool. So it's quite cheap to heat the house, especially like over the whole duration of winter. Hasn't cost much at all. And I think on average, pre the prices going crazy for electric, I think probably we're gonna look at an average of about 45 a month. With the crazy prices, call it 65. So overall, the house is cheap to run, has good quality air, good systems, is environmentally friendly. Yeah, I'm very, very happy with the result. Only one tweak was this iBoost to the Immersun, and I'm very happy with that result as well. It's worked really, really well. If you are looking at doing a reno or considering doing a full renovation job, especially in Southern Europe, I basically put all of the things I learned into a book. This doesn't really include like how to tile, there's hundreds of videos which do that really well, but all the things which are specific, which are hard to get the information for, or the things that I spend like 10 hours online trying to research and figure out, they're all in a book. You can buy that book here, the links in the descriptions somewhere in the video and in the comments, so check that out if that's something you're interested in. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff, and we'll see you next time.